Alrighty. I wanted to congratulate Jerry for his 2,000 subscribers. That's freaking awesome. Thought he posted a little video about that. I need to, well, I want to, I should focus a little bit more on some of the stuff I do. I'm kind of a squirrel chaser. I got 8,000 things always in the mix. Maybe not 8,000, but I've got several projects in the mix. I need to focus on one or two. Anyways, I wanted to do a quick update on my Klingon design. For those of you that haven't seen the other video, I'm working on a I'm working on a 1/200 scale, but I'm actually designing this to where I could pretty much scale it into well, basically I could scale it into what I could print. If I got a new printer, it's a little bit bigger than the other ones we had. We got some string printers and we had some chemical printers, and we were printing some custom chess pieces on it. I should do a video about that. But anyways, let's see. Let's put some color to this. So this is kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm designing the what I call the hull wings, which is the part that comes out of the main hull. Your smaller models actually have this. There's basically two pieces. They have this piece is the bottom, and then they have so they have actually the bottom of the hull. This is half. I'm modeling, and then I'll mirror this. 3D modelers will know what I'm talking about. I basically model one side of this at a time, and I put a mirror, what's called a mirror modifier on it. So right now on this particular one, anything I do to this, you can see that, zoom in this way, okay, so anything I do on this, like I still have to model in the back wall, the underside, and I need to model in this front side. And this front side has kind of a I think they call it hydrogen cooling setup. It looks kind of like a vent scoop. You need to put a vent scoop in here. And what I did already is, since this piece on the model that I'm making, this is going to be 4 pieces, and that way if I model this in like something like say 1/100 scale, I could probably if I do these parts right, I'll be able to print them. So I could actually print this into a 7-foot model, or I can at 1/200 scale, this would be 3.5 feet. This whole ship would be. So I need to finish detailing this, and then I can come over here to this piece. I still need to finish this main hull piece. Come back out of here. So real quick, if I show you this, if I mirror this to the Y, it's the same thing. Anything I do with this, I need to finish modeling in the top. I've actually modeled it in, but I removed it because I'm figuring out, like, I'm going to have to figure out kind of where the balance is on this. I kind of know, but I need to model in a reinforcement reinforced hole so for the stand, and then when I finish the main boom here, I have to figure out, I have to put in the area so that I can glue that in there. You can glue that in there, and I want it on the models before this. Of course, they're quite smaller models, but they have tabs and guide holes and stuff like that. But I want this to be large enough, like as you can see in the engine pylon wings, the main hull wings go down for the engine. I have a large enough passageway in there for wiring and stuff. If you want to, I want to give you the options of lighting up these nacelles, and I haven't decided yet, but I'm probably going to make 2 different types of nacelles, and or when I put in the area on the front of this for your hydrogen cooling vents, I'm either going to design 2 separate ones, one with clear plastic in the ribs, or I'm just going to make an area to where it's recessed, and then you put in the little grill mesh and stuff. But if I do it right, kind of like I did this teardrop on the front here, I made this teardrop. Instead of splitting this down the middle like the smaller models do, of keeping this, I think the 1/350 scale, they pretty much make this teardrop into one piece, and then they have the top open. I have to see how these print out first, because the way it looks on here can be deceiving. But anyways, I modeled this so that you can put LEDs in these portals in the teardrop. I made the segregation panels, and I can model the panels so you can run your wiring up through this boom. This boom's actually double pieced. And as you can see, I made quite a kind of a stiff piece with the guides here, so that gotta make sure that hole's big enough. It should be. It might look a little small on here, but 1/200 to 100 scale, this would actually be pretty decent size. And I'm actually looking at this on a, I think it's a 54-inch screen. It's 52 or 54. So the scale of this ship at 1/200, like I said, it makes this model about 3.5 feet long. What the heck did I do? I did this before, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. There we go. Glad I do a lot of saving. So when I mess up like that, I can recover it. Anyways, don't want to ramble on too much about this. I just wanted to show the update. But yeah, I definitely have some design work to do. And 3D modeling these ships, I've actually already 3D modeled basically the Enterprise, or I just say I modeled the Constitution class, the Mark 9 Constitution, and I modeled the Romulan ship. But basically, I haven't modeled those as a model, because this is a little bit different. You have to segregate the sections, and you have to make these as shells. You have to have thickness to them, otherwise the 3D program's not going to recognize them. So, like at the moment, until I get this finished and closed in, then in this space, this is basically, you could think of it as paper thin, like in real life, except for it's not even paper thin. It's like microscopically thin. The 3D programs wouldn't even recognize this yet. This piece here, even if I finish all the walls, if I don't add thickness and make it like a physical thing that has, you know, a couple millimeters thickness to it. And I also want there to be pretty decent wall thickness, because when I print this thing out, I want it to be sturdy. I want it to be able to, you put these pieces together and you don't have to worry about this thing just, you know, like you drop it and it just snaps the teardrop right off the boom, because there's, you know, no structural integrity. Anyways, we'll go out of there, and I can also come in here, which I've showed most of these pictures on the Blender form, and I've also, with what I showed you, really the pictures, I have a lot of pictures for reference, and I take pictures of my work, and then I save Blender files, and then once I actually start printing out files, then I'll transfer these over probably to flash drives or something, so I can clear them off my computer. And what I wanted to show you right quick also is that I had ran into a design, and I thought it was a fan design quite some time back. Let's see. Let's go back out of here right quick. So earlier on, when I was so anyways, I have some of these are pictures that I picked up for the Romulan Bird of Prey. This is actually like a shot of the model that they used for Balance of Terror. You can tell this shot was taken in like 1966 or 67 when they were filming Balance of Terror, and this is probably Kodachrome, or this is actually I think a shot from the 35mm film they were using at the time before they transferred stuff to audio or to videotape. Some of this stuff where people 3D models. Here's another shot. Here's a shot where this is kind of interesting. They got mats on the floor, and they got you know, boxes, crates, and they did this model. It's kind of interesting. They did this model with two different techniques. You could actually see part of the gantry thing over here. They had a plywood gantry with a double disc system, and they actually hung this from the ceiling and filmed it. But they also were using this approach where they were filming this, as you can see, supported from the bottom. This is a redigitized. This is from a shot from the redigitized episode, which is interesting. They made the ship more silverish, and you can see they put panel lines in here, and they have what I'll call they have the classic where they went from the blueprints that were made 10 years after the model was destroyed, and they have the engines too high. They actually have the engine cells too high on this ship. I think this is just somebody's dinking around. This is kind of interesting. They show this panels. Again, they got kind of panel lines, and somebody did it pretty good where they 3D modeled this, and then they got it, they got it fighting the Klingon Bird of Prey with the Romulan Bird of Prey. And this is kind of interesting because on the blueprints these are supposed to be shuttle bay doors. And they added impulse engines. They actually ran them out. Okay, here's another studio shot from Desilu. And again, this one is where they have it hanging from the ceiling, and you can see that the engine cells aren't quite as high. They're not as high up as the blueprints that they did later would lead you to believe. And here's somebody where they played around, modeled it a little bit, and they have them. No, they actually have them like too flat from what I can see. But anyway, I saved some pictures, and I'll show some more pictures of these. This is a little bit better take on it, but and this is a cartoon or Photoshop painting or matte. This is something where they colored it in Photoshop, and again they have the nacelles too high up. They did a good job with the bird decal, but on the model it's kind of actually, on the original filming model, this part of the wing that they painted on the nacelle was higher up on the side of this. I think the biggest reason I saved this was because this was one of the original emblems. I actually think they had this on the episode where Kirk sneaks on and steals the cloaking device from the Romulan D7, and one of the reasons they had the D7 in that episode was because this model had been destroyed by the original creator. Okay, so here's the bottom of this is actually one of the blueprints that they had done. As you can see, this is dated 1977. So basically 11 years, and Michael McMaster, who also, I'm pretty sure has his name on the Klingon D7 blueprints or line drawings also. Some of the same names: Jeff Maynard, John Upton. I don't know about Jeffrey Mandel, but anyways, a few of these people ended up redoing some of this work, and this is a little bit interesting. This seems to have that little bit higher, and they have the original dimensions, because I've seen on quite a few of the wikis, you really got to double check your wikis, because your wikis can be so wrong on some of the dimensions and stuff like that. But for the most part, this blueprint is pretty accurate. to the what the filming model looked like. I don't believe the filming model had these shuttle bay doors, and the reason they put those in here, because now if you come into this, so here's your floor plan. They actually come up with a floor plan, and they got the bridge that would have been in the ship. Zoom in on that. So here's your bridge where they did most of the filming, where they had Mark Leonard in here, and they had the three guys sitting around looking in the consoles of the bridge. Because it was kind of interesting. The bridge during that episode, this was supposed to be kind of like a submarine in space, where the Enterprise was supposed to be, it's supposed to be more, a cruiser, supposed to be a heavy cruiser, but it was supposed to be in a sense like a destroyer in this episode, because it was more or less taken from Das Boat, the movie Das Boat, and kind of like Run Silent, Run Deep, stuff like that. It was supposed to be that the Romulans were supposed to be in a submarine, and they could shoot a torpedo. They had the plasma weapon that was supposed to represent. It's a small ship, but it could do massive damage. So this ship was supposed to be more like a submarine, and it's more or less a third of the size of the Enterprise, give or take, if not a quarter of the size of the internal volume stuff. And one of the things on all these TOS ships, especially all of these blueprints, and they did these in the 70s, is they have a lot of space where they have sensors like they have emergency air storage, which I guess would be if the ship was damaged so bad that the CO, like if they didn't have CO2 filters or whatever machinery that cleans their breath and turns it back into oxygen, or some way they could synthetically create oxygen. So they're supposed to be like compressed air tanks, and then emergency batteries. Like I said, even in the blueprints of the Enterprise up into like 79, the next generation, they have just emergency batteries all over them ships and stuff like that. And but anyways, what I wanted to point out on this right quick, I'm getting too long-winded, and I don't want this video to get too long. I try to stay within a half an hour or less. 20 minutes actually, probably better. But I wanted to show you this shuttlecraft that the people that made these blueprints and they made these deck plans, and this is just from basically knowing the outside dimensions of the ship. So they ended up making deck plans, and they made this nice little Buck Rogers looking, supposed to be a 3-man shuttlecraft. And if you look at this shuttlecraft, here's your room again with that's your bridge with your little 3-man console station, like I said, like they had in the Balance here. And if we come down here, then they have what appears to be, it says the maintenance shop for the shuttle bay, and then they have the 2 shuttle bays. So they at least had 2 of these little 3-man ships, if not 4. They could have possibly had 4 probably. And if you come up here to the side, they don't really show it because it's hid behind the see, now this is shuttlecraft bay air storage. So again, they show this big old tank, and you can see this roof line of this area of the ship where the shuttle bay is, would be on this incline. And okay, so the tank, these tanks that we're seeing, is in the center here with this fin, this fin that's on the tank. So these tanks that we're seeing is centered in here. So I don't know if that's for, like, I'm just guessing that the shuttle would land, they close the doors, they have the air tanks would be pressurized so they could quickly fill the shuttle bays with air, and they would probably have to have the guys climb in this, and then they would, you know, they would suck the air out of here with the vacuum compressing the tanks. They have these little lines. It looks like I said, I think the actual top of those shuttle bays are supposed to open up so that these can launch. The problem, or I should say the heartburn I have with this, is that I don't think the Romulans, I don't really think they would have shuttlecraft that look like this. Just looks like 1930s Buck Rogers, and you know, I'm not going to say that they did a good job designing this. They did a good job designing the floor plan. Computers in the 60s and 70s were still, you know, a home computer was such a kind of like a little ridiculous thing. They didn't have any kind of storage power or computing power at all. So some of these things with the ship's computers too is, you know, the sensors and the batteries and some of the stuff, they really put a lot of, it took up a lot of room, where your storage still would, but okay, so they got the invisibility cloaking device, see there, and then they got some of this equipment, and some of this equipment still quite takes up a lot of room, which, you know, you could, or maybe it would take up a lot of room, but some of these things, they have computer cores on multiple decks, and they still have that mentality that the computer takes up massive space. I would really like to almost redesign the floor plan to the Romulan Bird of Prey, to upgrade it somewhat, because we can get away a little bit away from the computers taking up entire decks and rooms and stuff like that. Even though this still would be maybe somewhat quite large per se, you could probably consolidate it quite a bit and make it more functional. Now this, what I was starting to talk about, is after not liking the Buck Rogers shuttlecraft. This is actually a shuttlecraft that Matt Jeffries designed, and this is actually a Eagle Moss toy. But the first time I seen this, I didn't see this in a picture. I actually seen it in like a drawing, and I thought it was a fan. Drawing. Here's a few other ones where here's actually one of the pictures that Matt Jeffries drew. He was drawing what looked like, it's kind of interesting, looks like a little 4-man, like an airplane, like a Piper Cub, and it actually kind of had the door like modern minivans had and stuff. But from this concept, this is one of the things he actually wanted in this. I'm not sure, because this is on water. So I think this is a model that somebody made that was kind of modeled after, and they call it, and this is I think this is a 3D model, and they have the name Kepler on it, but it's a little bit fatter and stubbier, and I think it's meant to be a little smaller than the Eagle Moss toy. And I didn't realize also this is the Galileo next to the Jeffries concept, and so this was actually, by having it egg-shaped and round, he actually would have had to have it quite large. That, you know, if he wanted to put 6 or 6 or 8 people in this ship, you would have had to have it quite large as compared to they boxed out the Galileo to make it more more upright room. You could put 7. You had 7 chairs in here. You had the doors on the port side. They opened up. You walked in. You actually had the little bit of the walkway in the middle, so that you weren't sitting side by side, crammed side by side. But anyways, I found this quite novel. I found it interesting, and I think I kind of pictured this more as I don't personally care too much for the way he did the landing gear. I understand why he did it, but I think to me the only thing on here that kind of seems ridiculous a little bit is the way he did that. But it did alleviate, so he didn't have to have. He has a landing pad that comes down from the center of the ship to hold the back up, and then he incorporated the pylons into landing pads that also hold the warp nacelles for this. And I think this says Al-Brindi, and I'm not sure who Al-Brindi is, and I need to look that up. I think Al-Brindi was a Muslim prophet or a Muslim mathematician. Is usually your shuttlecraft are named after explorers. They're named after, Galileo, Copernicus, people that figured out that the Earth was round, people that had, built satellites. And I'm not sure. I've thought about buying one of these from Eagle Moss. It's a kind of cool idea. I just think that this idea here could be slightly modified and probably scaled a little different, because I didn't realize how large it was. And I think, or even kind of like the stubby one I was showing you a little earlier, I think that this would make a more suitable, like the Romulan shuttlecraft. And I also think, what I'm thinking more though, is that you set these back a little more, you angle them up to put their little engine nacelles. You definitely make the engine nacelles look more like the Romulan engine nacelles, and you have your 3 landing pad feet, whatever, come out of the bottom of the ship. And on the bottom, I think you lose the egg shape on the bottom, and you kind of keep this round top, and on the bottom you actually extend that out a little bit so that it would look kind of like the Romulan hull, say upside down. And that would actually give them more, if you made it smaller, it would give them more upright, like feet room, leg room. And this is something, I don't know, I've kind of seen this, but I saved it. It's obviously Star Wars, but I pictured it as kind of like a shuttlecraft or a. Okay, now here, this is kind of like, you can see this. It says Enterprise E, and I don't know if this is actually one of their shuttles or if this is just something. It looks like it might be another Eagle Moss toy, but it kind of came in on that design theory I was talking about. Other than, and sometimes you can't tell the scale of these, but this looks like it would be fairly large. I just think you could take this design, like I said, you could make a Romulan shuttle out of it, and with the concept. I don't want to just copy the, I don't want to copy it per se, but it definitely gave me inspiration to make something that looked more, more like the Romulan ship itself, without just flat out copying the Romulan ship. And I think it would fit the flavor better than the little Buck Rogers looking 3-man rocket ship. I think they would they would at least want something that would carry 6 people. And the only thing about that though is, go back into here. Oops. Oh, because I need to transfer. I have separate files I need to. So, anyways, we jump back into the this blueprint. This shows this is the other 2 levels. So you have three decks here, and you have a ramp, and you have see, like this says raw material storage, large water storage, stuff like that. And then part of that's actually where the ship tapers, so that's kind of like under the floor. And then your middle deck here, they got this is what I was talking about. Most of your sleeping quarters in this particular ship are in the I think it's deck 3, yeah, main deck 3, and then that's deck 4. So your main area where you really actually have some room, and you have your engine room here, and you have deck 4. Like again, they show, like I said, they show things, and they put quite a bit of stuff into where the floor tapers down to not waste the space. But they have so they have this inspection corridor, and they show where they have the actual portholes on the ship, the plasma weapon, and its associated stuff takes up a lot of the middle of this ship, and it also takes a lot of the front of the ship up. But I think somehow you could rearrange this or minimize some of this stuff so that you could make a more plausible shuttle bay, whether you had it come out of the bottom, or like, I'm not sure that ramp takes a lot of room up, and that ramp is actually kind of pretty has kind of an extreme angle on it. But this was because this ship is capable of, you know, coming into the planet, landing on the planet. And there's your engineering from the side here. I just think somehow that I don't know exactly how it could be worked. Maybe this plasma stuff could be made more like with the firing tube, and that instead of having this chamber right dead smack in the middle of this stuff, it could be reshaped to where it could do its thing without taking the whole top of the ship up, or the whole bottom of the ship, or the whole middle here. It could be skinnied up. I don't know. I think somehow that you could make a bay on here. You could make room for a shuttle bay, so that you could fit one of these in I don't know, maybe you could keep those little ones for even so, if you kept these little 3-man shuttle things, I think you could keep them more as like escort fighters or something, and you could have a larger shuttlecraft. Part of the problem with this area is you have this big fin that was actually also supposed to be, I think the idea is with your warp nacelle pylons that also double kind of as a wing surface, and this was almost like I wouldn't say a rudder, but a horizontal, a vertical stabilizer, you know, for like flying in the atmosphere. Anyways, that's something I should be working on in the future again, because like I said, I have this 3D model as far as just the shape of this. I have this modeled, but I don't have it modeled as pieces like you seen what I was doing with the Klingon ship. I don't have it shelled and what's called manifold, and I don't have it, I got to figure out the size it would be, because I definitely want to match these up in scales once I do the Constitution class and the D7 and the Romulan Bird of Prey and the shuttlecraft for them. And even I'm considering the K7. That's one of the reasons I'm wanting to go on to 1/200 scale, because the K7 and 1/100 scale would be pretty darn big. It would be about, I don't know, I think about 15 to 20 feet long, which maybe it might not be that big. That might be more like 1/72 scale. I haven't calculated. I could definitely get that calculated and figure it out. But yeah, at 1/100 scale, the K7 would be quite the model. And I definitely got to do some rearranging in my file. Like I started making some folders, but I don't have things in the folders except for pretty much the Klingon one. And I started getting Buck Rogers ship pictures in here, so I did take them out. Here's one that's still kind of stuck in there. I need to get this one moved, which is funny. This I always liked the Buck Rogers. I forget what they call this. They got a name for it, the Starfighter or whatever it is. I always kind of thought that was a cool design. This I absolutely hate. This is like one of the nastiest, ugliest designs I have ever seen on sci-fi. I kind of get the idea of the flavor that they wanted it to be a bad guy, so they made it like it's Rust Yard Rust, and they put the kind of cool skull emblem thing on it, like an alien skull, and from the top this even doesn't look too bad, but just they put the cockpit in this thing so high, and they got it's practically like these guys they're either setting up really high in it or they're standing in it, and they put the back on there. They've got a circle and they got a bunch of little tubes in the circle. The Buck Rogers ship literally looks like it has kind of like F-16 afterburners on it. This is just, like I said, I thought this was a really interesting design. It was pretty simplified. They just basically put two rocket tubes and then they put the cockpit in between it and winged it and kind of put the underwing on it. And I liked this. I liked the Viper. The Cylon ship was okay, the original Cylon ship, but it was roundish and flying saucer kind of looking, but and I do like that they made it fly kind of like in the 70s. They didn't have the concept of viping and flipping around like they did in the New Galactica and all that kind of stuff, but so they did what they did at the time. But I liked the X-Wing, the TIE Fighter, most of the ships I like, but this just, I don't know, this is another ship that just needs to be redesigned, because you could kind of take it from the top and the bottom and maybe redesign it, but they just literally look like they put angle iron straight across and they welded it across together, and then they tried to put the body on there, and then they got the probe / mini rocket, which is also your weapons, holds your weapons in it, to try to make it look kind of like a pitchfork head or something. But yeah, they just got so blocky in here. And they got sitting in the back like a dragster, and I don't think I would hate it as much if they either had these swept forward, or if they would have put kind of like F-16 looking wings on it, and had moved the pilot up a little bit, or if nothing else, they could have had them lowered. They just have that. Like I said, I don't like that design. To me, it's stupid. And I'm sitting on about 45 minutes, and like I said, I didn't want to go that far, so this is my screensaver at the moment, and this is the D7. Literally, this is 3.5 feet long on my screen, so this is this is about how large this model should be with the first printing when we start printing out the parts. So I get more progress done, I'll try to do some shorter videos on that, and then when I actually start 3D printing parts to test fit, I will definitely do some videos on that. And once again, congratulations to Jerry on his 2,000 subscribers. Keep on trekking.